today, and welcome to the third project of the Android Basics Nanodegree through Udacity. And for this one here, we had to build a quiz app. So this one challenges on a few things that we've learnt to date. Pretty much in particular, planning our design before we start coding, taking our drawing from and making it into an XML code, creating positioning and styling views, creating interactivity through button clicks and Java code, and commenting and documenting our code. So for this one here, the Rubik's was basically that we had to make a minimum of 4 questions. Each of those questions had to have a checkbox for something. That's where a question might have more than one correct answer. One radio button question and one text entry question. So pretty much the rest is just other specifics that we have to do to make sure that we use our best practices for what we've learned. Okay, so into the code. I decided to do one on COVID-19, being that that's something that's globally affected us. And I've used a scroll view for this one because there's quite a few questions here and you've got to be able to scroll to each question. So looking at how we've developed this one here, the first one I've started off with some radio buttons, second one I've got the text entry, and the third one I've done the check boxes. So immediately I've already covered, just from those 3 questions, the 3 different types of inputs that we need to be able to provide and validate. So from my scroll view, which is purely so that we can scroll the rest of it, the entire remainder of the content is wrapped in this linear layout. It's a vertical linear layout, meaning that it's working from the top down each line. So each asset creates its own line in there. So I've set it off with a text view. That's got the heading, COVID-19 quiz. And we come underneath with the smaller text that's saying we've got 10 questions to test your knowledge. All right, from there, I've made a question divider. That's the little purple line that you will see in between each question. I've put that in a style so I don't have to keep retyping that out. So we come over to my style sheets. You'll see here my question divider. All it's doing is it's setting a DP height of only 2. So it's a very thin line, and I'm coloring it purple. And we've just got some margin there for the top and bottom just to separate each question. Back to the main activity, we'll see that the line's been drawn there, and then we're straight into our first question. So again, I've just used styles so that I don't have to keep repeating what the style of the question is, or if I want to change it, I just simply go to my styles, and I can change here. So I want it bold, I want it 18, I want it that color purple to match the divider, and they use a wrap content for height and width. So really good for that, so that if I do try to tweak the text here, I only have to go into the style sheet, change that, and all text that uses that style is automatically affected. So with the question being asked, this one here is radio buttons. So I create a radio group that encases all 3 radio buttons that are to be affected by that group. By doing this, the radio group starting here, finishing here, that means that if I tick any one of these buttons, radio buttons, if the others are checked, they will automatically be unchecked. So it only allows one answer. So in this case, I only have one correct answer, and that's toilet paper. The question was, which item was made famous by panic buying when COVID-19 first hit the headlines? So I'm only interested in if someone ticks the toilet paper. If the other ones are ticked, or if none of them are ticked, doesn't matter. That's a wrong answer. So I've put an ID on there so that in Java I can check to see that the toilet paper radio button is actually checked. Anything else is a wrong answer for that one. Okay, so coming down to a text box, for free entry, we used EditText. So text view sets up the actual question, what country did COVID-19 originate from? And the text box will allow someone to type that in. Now, in this case, I've actually restricted it to a maximum of 1 line and single line true. You might ask, why am I using both? Well, it depends what version. So this will allow older versions to use their preference, and the newer versions to use that one. So backwards compatibility, I felt I'd just include both of those. For this one here, we're looking for text, so I've put the input type as text as well. Moving on, the next question. Now this is where we come into our checkboxes. So again, I start with a divider. then we have our question. So the question here is, which statements are not true? And asking check all that apply. So that's indicating that there may be more than one answer that is correct here. Right now, with checkboxes, I need to be able to check which correct ones are checked and the incorrect ones are not checked. So each checkbox will need to be addressed. In that case, I've actually got each checkbox answer with its own code. So in that case, it's Q3 elderly Q3 elderly, Q3 social distance, Q3 alcohol, and Q3 wash hands, which is just a summary of the main topic about those questions. Okay, down to question 4. So I've covered those 3. Question 4, I will show you this one just simply because there was something different I tried here. Just testing the boundaries here. These ones are an image question and it's using a radio button group. So what I really wanted to test here was, if you tick the radio button, so as you see the blue line around here, that will enable the radio button. But I wanted also, if someone checks the image, that radio button still gets clicked. So same if they click this image, then I want this radio button to be checked. And if they chose robovirus, then I want the robovirus checkbox to be, radio button to be checked. So to do that, I switched to a relative layout for starters, and then I've placed each image on that screen. Now, when I've placed those images, I've actually used a layout to right of. So using those IDs already, I can actually place these beside each other. What I've also done is onClick, and this is how I make them check the radio button. If you were to check, for instance, the coronavirus one, it would go Q4 corona click. And in the Java code, that would then enable this button to be, the radio button to be checked. So that's my 3 images. Then I start my radio button. This one here is a radio group. It's going to go horizontal. I just want them right. I didn't apply any text here because I want the images to be a visual question. So in this particular case, each one of those has a ID, and I need the ID again so that if the image is pushed, that I can address that ID and mark this as checked. The rest are pretty much checkboxes and radio buttons and another image one again, but I won't go through those because I've already seen samples of those up ahead. Then the next one is to submit your answers down the bottom. When they submit their answers, then they'll get a score. All right, so we'll have a look at the actual Java code and how this has all come together. I'll just swiftly take you down to the button at the bottom there that simply says if they do click, that it will run the method submit answers when pressed. Okay, so in the Java code, we start off with, I've defined that there are 10 questions. That's final. That's not going to change. If I add another question, then I'll just come in and hard code that to 11 or so on and so forth. Now, the other one, total correct, that will change. So as we start checking each answer, that will increase as each one is determined correct. Okay, this one will change, so I've just called that as an int, and I've given it a starting score of 0. So on create, we'll notice that activity main, which is our layout, that will be activated, and then it will listen for these to be called. So Q4, blob click, so that's where they've clicked on the blob virus. This is the blob virus. If they click on the actual image itself, it's going to look for the radio button, Q4 blob radio button, and it's going to set that as true. So clicking the blob virus will check the radio button. Same here with the coronavirus image, and then same with the robo image. So that covers that question 4 and the peculiar instance where the images we also want to be able to select the radio button correspondingly. So the rest of it here, we're going to submit answer now, and this will go through and check each question. So the first question, the only answer we wanted was toilet paper, so that's the only thing we're checking. So we'll go and grab the radio button's value for that particular radio button. We put that in a variable called answer1, and then we check if answer1 is checked. If it is, then Great, they've scored their first correct answer. Answer 2 is an edit text. Now this one being text, could be uppercase, could be lowercase. We don't really know how someone spells it. So we don't want to mark them for getting the cases wrong. We just want to make sure that the word China appears. So what I've done here, I'm going and looking for that view, the edit text view by its ID, and then saving that into an object. We're then checking that object, we're getting the text, turning it into a string and trimming. So if they've got any spaces or anything like that, that will be trimmed. We're then converting it to uppercase, and then the uppercase version of whatever they've typed is converted to a check to see if it equals China. So as long as they've typed China, all lowercase, capital C, or all uppercase, that'll be determined as correct, and they'll score another point for that one. Number 3, now this one here are the checkboxes. Now remember, with a checkbox, there can be more than one answer. So we actually have to make sure that they did not check the wrong answers. So what I'm doing first off, I'm saying that the Q3 tally, which will make sure how many I need to have correct, is checked, and how many I need to have unchecked. So in this case, there's 4 different options. So elderly check, I want it true, and I've actually named variables to what the answer I want. So elderly, I want that true. Social distance, I want false. Alcohol, I want true. And wash hands, I want false. So first thing doing, I'm getting that checkbox. I'm grabbing it by their associated IDs, saving them into these objects, and then in the object, I'm checking to see, is it checked? So elderly, I want true. Is it checked? Then we get 1 point for the tally. Alcohol, is it checked? If it's checked, then we're going to get another point. Now this one we want checked false. We're still using is checked, but the difference here is I'm starting off with a exclamation mark. So that's saying not true. So if this is not true that it's checked, then we're going to get a +1. And the same with wash hands, we want a false, so we want not true, and we'll get a point. Now, if each of those 4 questions is answered the way we need them to be, then our Q3 tally should equal 4, and after we've checked all 4 of those answers, we can then get the bonus point. Question 5, it's a radio button, so same as the previous. Sorry, question 4 so is a radio button, same as previous. Question 5, again, is a checkbox. This one actually had 5 choices, so this time I had to make sure the tally was 5. That's the rest for the other ones are just variations of those. So down to the last one here, we go to check to see when the answer was submitted. We get to the bottom, and we display, then reset the score. So the score depends on what you scored in the question. So if your total score equals total questions, then our toast message will be, and we're displaying the answer as a toast, our toast message will be, congratulations, you got 100%. New line, that's what the /n does, you are awesome. Long toast will also be set as true. That was set as false at the beginning here, so unless it's set as true, it will remain as false. This is the only time it's set as true, is when you've got 100%. So if your total correct answers is greater than 0, this is an else if. So therefore, if this is true, then nothing else will be actioned. This is saying otherwise, if that's not true, then let's test this. Let's test this. So if total correct is greater than 0, then you've at least got 1 right. You just haven't got them all right. So this will go, you got total correct out of total questions correct. Try adjusting your answers and resubmit. Otherwise, if you haven't got greater than 0, then you've got 0 basically. If you've got 0, then all of your answers are incorrect. Try adjusting your answers and resubmit. Now, based on whether long test was set as false or true, the toast will now be displayed. So we're testing to see if long test is true. That will only happen if we've got all questions right. If long test is true, then it'll show the message, congratulations, you got 100%, you are awesome, and that will be a long toast. Otherwise, any other results, whether it's you got some many out of 10 or you got all answers incorrect, they will be displayed as the short text. After that's displayed, the total score is reset to 0 so that the person can scroll up. No, answers are kept the same, so they can tweak their answers and just hit resubmit answer to try again. That's how it works. I'll show you how it works on the app. Okay, now you can see the COVID app, and we've started off with the very first question, and being a radio button, I can choose any one answer. If I choose another one because they're in the same radio group, the other ones will be deselected. So toilet paper is the answer I want there. This one is our text view, so if I go China, and I don't have an button that I can test, you can see I've tried before with the C and the capital H just to test the answer, and that still works. Okay, which statements are not true? Check all that apply. So it affects more than the elderly, so we know that that's not true, and we know that drinking alcohol is not going to reduce our risk of COVID. Down here, the question one, I can tick the image and automatically it will check. So as I check any image, I don't have to check the radio button. The radio button is checked for me. Which of these, again, it's a multiple checkbox, so I can choose more than one question. Which of these symptoms indicate that you have COVID-19? I'll check the two that I know are correct. And then moving on to the third one, this one is, what is the recommended distance? We know that's 1.5 meters. I'm just going to go through quickly because I just want to show the output. And we know that means that we need a mask. What animal do we feel it came from? That was a bat. And what is the common term applied when a community is restricted movement and confined to home? Well, that's lockdown. Never fun. And what type of beverage is Corona famously known for? Well, that's a beer. Not a bad one either. Okay, so down the bottom now, it's asking me if I'm feeling lucky. I can hit the button to check my answers. Let's get the coffee one wrong, just to see what happens. And in that case, it's say you got 9 out of 10 correct. Alright, so if I get beer, I'll hit submit again. It says, congratulations, 100%, you are awesome. And you'll notice that that one stayed up longer as well. Okay, so that's the app, and that was my project for that one. Hope you enjoyed, and again, good luck with your course. Thank you.